Hi everyone. Today I'm going to share with you how to choose your samples. Now for those of you who are new to my channel, I make YouTube videos to help those who have just started the research or maybe are embarking on their research. So please hit the like button if you liked my video and hit the subscribe button as well. Let us begin. How to choose your samples? Now this is a common question that many master's or PhD students struggle with, especially after they have drafted the proposal, and the next thing is data collection. So they need to think of how to choose samples. Now it can be broken down into two, whether you're looking at quantitative research or whether you're looking at qualitative research. Now if you're looking at quantitative research, the first thing that you have to ask yourself is, what is the objective of your research? Are you looking at a certain behavior of people in a country or a particular industry or a group of people, like for example, the indigenous people? Or are you looking at the behavior of a profession? Now this is the starting point of my sharing here. Let's say you are looking at the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational culture of people in a country. Then you need to know in a country there are how many states they have, and from there you need to determine from each state how many samples you need to take based on the population. So in that kind of context, that means which companies they are working in or which industries they are working in becomes not so relevant because what you want is to cover the people in a particular country in a very representative way. Or are you looking at the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational culture of people in the tourism industry? If that is your research objective, then you need to know where the companies are, the tourism companies, and you would want to select samples based on the companies, right? You follow the companies. Let's say in certain states they have more tourism companies, you want to select more samples from that particular state. Okay, so therefore you will not consider whether the state is big or small, whether the people is a lot or not, but focusing on the tourism companies. At the same time, you also may not focus a lot on whether these people are operational level staff, managerial, or senior management, because your focus is on people working in the tourism industry. Or are you looking at the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational culture among the indigenous people? If that's the case, then you need to know where they are. In another word, you might not really consider how many states and the populations and so on, but your target is indigenous people. And you might not consider which companies they are in, which industry they are in, but basically you are just interested in the people, that is the indigenous people, okay? Or you're interested in the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational culture of teachers in the country. So if that's the case, your target samples will be all the teachers in the country, irrespective of where they are, their nationality, and maybe the type of schools they are in. Or you look at the relationship between job satisfaction and organizational culture of teachers in the country, where you might be interested to know, especially if at the state level there is a different organizational culture from one state to another, or maybe there is a different organizational culture between private school and government school, or maybe in terms of ethnicity, the way they perceive job satisfaction could be different, or maybe in terms of nationality, it could make a difference. So if that is the case, then you really need to break it down into not just teachers, but how many teachers from each state so that it's representative, all right? And the type of schools that you need to break it down, whether it's private school or national school, ethnicity, if it's important, as well as nationality. So which one is the correct one? It's very much depending on research your research objective as well as what the literature say in the past. Like I said just now, if the literature shows that people in different organizations might behave differently in terms of their job satisfaction, and maybe there's organizational culture differences between private school and government school, then perhaps there is a need for you to collect the sample based on that kind of a breakdown. Now let's talk about qualitative research. The decision of selecting sample is still also based on your research question. But in qualitative research, then we need to consider whether you are looking at an exploratory study or an explanatory study. Exploratory study basically is looking at theory building, meaning to say you don't have a theory in that area, so you want to build theory. Or explanatory is probably an area where there is a theory being developed, but you want to see how the theory works, or maybe with the objective of expanding the theory. Okay, let's talk about exploratory study. Let's say if you are doing an exploratory study where there is no theory exists to explain the scenario. So if that is the case, then you need to keep collecting your samples and keep analyzing, because since there is no theory, you don't know what you will get. So you keep analyzing the data until you found no new findings already. Then you stop collecting data, then the sample stops there. This is what we call data saturation. Saturated, no more new data. So that is sufficient for you to formulate a theory, to build a theory. And this is sometimes also known as the grounded theory approach. Go and read more about this grounded theory approach if you want to understand this more. That is how you select samples if it is an exploratory study, if it is a relatively new area. Let's say you're not looking at a new area, but rather you are looking at an area and then you apply an existing theory in the area in order to understand how it works, or maybe to expand the theory, or maybe you look at new application of the theory in a particular area. Then your choices of selecting samples would be focusing on the representative or typical samples. All right, why? Because the representative samples will be able to give you a representative view or voice about the population. For example, how does organizational culture affect job satisfaction of teachers? Say, for example, you understand that the average year of service of teacher in your country is 10 to 15 years in service. So then you should choose those teachers who have that length of period of service in order to conduct an interview, for example. You will not choose those teachers who have been in a service of less than 5 years or maybe just 1 or 2 years, because they cannot give you a representative voice of the whole population. Okay, conclusion. The decision on how you choose your sample is very much dependent on your research objective. So I hope this short sharing gives you some idea on how you should choose your sample. I'll see you in my next video. Bye.